I've only been seated at the table for a few moments before I get my first big hand. The action folds around me on the button, and I wake up with pocket jacks. Or should I say jiggities, as I raise and face a 3-bet from Brad Owen in the blinds, who looks down at ace-king offsuit. Now, with pocket jacks here, once in a while you can go for the 4-bet, but we're looking at a situation where the big blind is 40 bucks. It straddled this hand. So I could try and get the money in, but it's also reasonable to play for a flat. This is one of those spots where you mainly want to call, but every now and then you probably want to mix in a 4-bet to keep your opponent honest. Anyway, I do decide to just go ahead and make the call, and we take a flop. The flop comes 10-9-6 rainbow, a great flop for jacks. No overcards to scare us, although there are some hands like 10s and 9s that could have moved into the lead. What I'm most concerned about pre-flop, though, are hands like ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen. None of those have improved, and I'm looking pretty good. Brad checks it over to me, and at this point, you really don't want to be slow playing your jacks. You want to be betting, building this pot. Most of the hands that will check call you are going to be hands that, frankly, you want to be check calling, and also this hand is somewhat vulnerable compared to maybe some others. Regardless, when we do bet here, we want to go with a very small size. The idea being we let ourselves value bet thinly, and we can bet at a higher frequency when facing a check, and we put hands like ace-king and ace-queen in a very tough spot. We go ahead and bet just $275 here on the flop into a pot that's about 850 bucks. And Brad does decide to make the check call, and we take a turn. The turn's a queen completing the rainbow, and it's a little bit of an interesting card. It's definitely possible my opponent hit this queen. If he decided to check call a hand like king queen or king jack or queen jack, all of those hands have now improved. Now, I would expect those hands to bet the flop or check raise the flop a decent amount, so I don't think he has too many of those hands, but they're definitely in there. If I bet this turn and I get raised, well, I'm going to be pretty unhappy, and if I bet this turn and I get called, I don't really have room to go 3 streets for value. When you see those two factors and your opponent checks to you, you mainly want to check it back, so I do, and let's take a river. The river comes in offsuit 5, and Brad checks once again. I think it's worth noting Brad should likely be betting here some of the time. It's a situation where ace-king probably isn't good. There are so many hands that have improved, and he also doesn't have that many hands that are weaker. Yeah, if he check called a hand like ace-8 suited or ace-7 suited, those would be worker. Maybe even an ace-jack every now and then, but a lot of those hands are going to choose to bet, and he really has almost nothing that could possibly be worse than those holdings. So I think once in a while a bet here from Brad makes sense, but I don't mind the check either. In my shoes, once he checks, I feel like my hand is pretty close, but you can probably go for a bet. It might be a little bit too thin. I'm not entirely sure. It's right on the cusp. Certainly a queen is going to go for some value with a 2/3 pot size, and a hand like a 9 or a 10 would probably be a bit too thin. But when I have jacks and not a 10, makes it a little more likely Brad has something like jack 10 suited or 10-8 suited, although the jacks do block the jack 10 suited pretty hard, so maybe not that hand specifically. But regardless, makes it a little more likely he has some kind of pair that can check call, and I would expect a queen to be betting this river for value if he didn't bet the turn. I bet 900 bucks, Brad folds, and we take it down off to a nice little start here at the start of the session.
Jiggities?
The jiggities! Wow!
What a read there. What a read there by Brad.